I recently went to Costa Rica, but there's a twist. It's a school field trip. 30 kids, 3 guardians. That makes them sound cool. The whole thing was pretty wild, so I hope you enjoy the video. Let's start from the beginning. I was in my local airport, and while we were going through TSA, my money's teacher's belt swung right in front of my face, around 3 to 4 inches away. I could have been blinded, but yet I lived on. And then we flew to the other airport. So I was in this other airport. It rhymes with smelly. Anyway, I was with my friends, and we were exploring the place. And I walked past this dude, and he was wearing a freaking tie-dye bikini. I don't want to offend anyone, but I think bikinis in airports are a little strange. Anyway, I walked past the guy, and then I arrived to the chocolate shop. This place is great. It has only 20 cubic feet of space to walk around in, but they're just really good chocolates there. On my way back, I see one of our other friends riding a disabled scooter. He wasn't doing donuts, but he was having a blast. I got back to the seating area, and 2 classmates were throwing around Nido balls. There was a restricted area right next to where they were going. Yo, $100 if it goes in the restricted area. Yup. Later, the lighting system of the airport shut down, and our flight got delayed by 2 hours. There was a chance that we had to book a hotel and stay in LA. We eventually got on the plane to Costa Rica and headed off. Before we got to the Costa Rica airport, it was midnight and the cloud was so thick, the lightning would light them up, and it was the coolest thing I've ever seen. Anyway, we landed, and oh my gosh, the humidity was so bad, it was so hard to breathe. I felt like the water density was so high, I could just swim out of the place. This place is sticky and ooey and gooey, I'm out. We went to this hotel called Adventure Inn, and it was creepy. I was with Juan, and let's just call the other guy Cologne. There was this creepy doll bed, according to Cologne, and it was weird. It was tiny and didn't have a backboard. I got the luxury bed along with Cologne, and Juan got the creepy doll bed. It was super hard to sleep because it was sticky the whole time, but we eventually did. The next day, we woke up and went to the bathroom to brush our teeth. This bathroom smelled horrible. It smelled like poop. We didn't spend much time there before we got outside. We all got numbers, 1 through 30, and I got 5. The numbers are unique for each person to take attendance quickly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Where's Yes? How do you say he got bit by a snake in Spanish? Finally, we got to the bus, and it took 3 hours to get where we needed to go. I forgot what it was called, but it was a resort in the middle of nowhere. It was just trees for miles. We went to the resort and got some lunch. Here were the options: rice and beans, or cremas. Cremas are pretty much rip-off Oreos. So naturally, I took the cremas over the beans. We finally got into our hotel rooms, and these beds were bunk. These beds were bad. I was in a room with 4 people, so we all went on the bottom bunk. The top bunks were being held up with 2 planks of wood, and Juan's bunk bed had supports, As I was saying, the top bunks were being held up with 2 wooden planks, and Juan's top bunk had eggs in them. We eventually took Juan's top bunk off. Better safe than sorry. But then we got an idea. 4 people, 8 mattresses. That's 2 mattresses per person. We made a canopy out of delicious bunk beds, and it was amazing. We eventually ended up naming it El Hobo Final Boss. Now, before you call me a disrespectful person, I always called it Hobo in my family, so I don't mean any disrespect to them. I just want to keep my narrative as true as possible. This fort was so crazy. It was like Narnia. You should have been there. Anyway, it was night, and we were all pretty mad that our room was the only one that didn't have a bathroom. So we brushed our teeth and spit it out into the community sink, outside. When we fell asleep in El Hobo, the final boss, it was all quiet until there was lightning, and then there was a perfect crack in my bed that made the lightning light go right in my eyes. Alright, so I'm going a little bit out of chronological order right now, but you gotta hear this lightning story. Alright, I'm not even joking here, but this was on day 6 or 7. Like, I'm not even lying. I don't want to be that guy. Anyway, it was the day that we got to go to the stores. We stepped out of the bus and we saw this guy. He was recognizable. Yeah, it was the same guy we saw 2 days earlier. And he was selling ocarinas. Our English was kind of bad and his Spanish was kind of bad, so I guess it kind of evens out. See, turtle. Dead turtle. Ha! So, is this an ocarina? Well, it's a turtle. Absolutely. It was a turtle ocarina. And that's how the interaction went with 30 more kids. He was bringing in the quiche, though. Since every single kid was learning their new instruments, we got out of earshot so we wouldn't have to hear that screeching. First, I went to an ice cream store, and then I went to a convenience shop. I got a liter of Fanta for $3. And when we went outside, it was super dark out. I sure hope it doesn't rain. That would be bad. We were just vibing outside, and a lightning strike went right in front of us. It was so close. Everything was dead silent. And then, the flash almost blinded us, and the sound almost deafened us. I couldn't tell if the lightning hit the church or hit behind, but anyway, it was so stinking close. The top of the church did have like a little brown mark on it, so that does imply that it got hit before. And then, like a cartoon, it immediately started pouring. So the teacher just rounded all of us up under this concrete structure. 3 liters of Fanta and the whole classroom in one spot. You know what happened. Every single kid was begging me for Fanta. Like, guys, if you were really thirsty, can't you just drink the rain? I know, mind blown, right? But I was gracious and I Sorry about that again. When I fail my line, I start beatboxing. Anywho, the kids were drenched. And I had like pretty much infinite Fanta that I had to drink in the next like 3 days. So I wouldn't lose anything if I just poured it into their mouths. Spilling is no problemo. We went all the way back to the resort listening to thunder, rain, and kids that can't play instruments. Yay! Here is a photo of La Fortuna. It has an ice cream place to the right, the tree in the middle, which was our barrier, we couldn't go past it, the concrete structure thing to the bottom left, and the church. If you know what Geometry Dash is, let's get this level rated. Anyway, that's it for part 1. Have a nice day!